Hello. So, my name is Kavita Milwani with Aligned and Soulful Success. And today I want to talk about how your unconscious or subconscious mind impacts your success level. So, oftentimes when people are in a place that they're not reaching their levels of success, they tend to focus on external action steps. So, what can I do? And I know that I'm guilty of that. I'm just like, I would just add more things. Like, okay, if I'm not getting to my goal, I'm just going to do more. Right. And most of the time, it's because of how you're approaching things. And a lot of how you're approaching things and your thoughts are from your unconscious or subconscious mind. So when you're not reaching your goals, it's time to look there. Okay. So oftentimes people use the word unconscious and subconscious interchangeably, and there are some differences between them. So the unconscious is these are thoughts that are inside your mind that are repressed, right? And it's not necessarily easily accessible, right? So it's maybe some things that happened before you even had conscious memories. Okay. Subconscious is um, this idea of these thoughts and feelings, but maybe it's happened more often, right? Maybe it's more recent, excuse me. It's really not that easy to distinguish between them. So in this case, I'm going to be using them kind of interchangeably. And so when you think about your subconscious mind, first, unconsciously, we have our body, all the processes for our body, and everything is mostly taken care of by our unconscious, and that is like about 95% of our is the estimation. So, like certain things like breathing, you don't think about breathing, right? And even for those of you that drive and have been driving for a long time, you don't necessarily have to think about each step of driving, right? So that kind of unconscious. Or if you've ever been driving and you get somewhere and you don't actually remember the whole process of getting there, it's because you've gone there so many times, so you were kind of being like, kind of, it's like an unconscious process, right? So we have a lot of that, even just our body systems, all of that. But there are also things that are in our mind that are based on conditioning, and the conditioning being what we've experienced in childhood, um, and not just what we've experienced, things that we've heard, things that we've been told or taught. And this can be impacted by where you grew up, the people you grew up with, your family of origin, your culture, friends you had, where you went to school, where you went to high school, where you went to university, if you went to university, the people that your aunts, your uncles, if you had family surrounding you, and what were the things that they talked about, even how they dressed, how they talked about success, how they talked about money, all those things, how they talked about relationships, what's important, what values are important, all of that is your programming, is in your subconscious mind. It's your conditioning, right? And a lot of them, it's our assumptions of how we think the world works, right? It's like, well, obvious. And sometimes we think it's just that's how it is and it's obvious, right? And then when we really look at it, and if you really explore beyond that, you notice that some people that don't follow the conditioning that you've had, or have the rules that you have, the rules of society of how the world works, have different ones and have different outcomes. And you start to realize that, and this usually happens, as we go out into the world and leave our family of origin. And then especially when you get to a stage in life where you follow the rules and you've done everything you're supposedly supposed to do to be successful and to have a happy life, and you still are not feeling that level of satisfaction and purpose that you want. You're not feeling like, that this is it. And there's almost a part of you that questions, like, is this all there is? Right. And so this often happens at midlife, right? This sense of really deep questioning of everything. And that's where is like the prime time to work on your unconscious and your subconscious mind. And working with that is some that your subconscious mind can really help you with the process that Carl Jung calls individuation, right? Which is you living your life on your own terms, moving past your conditioning. And it's not a process that, it's just done, but it's an ongoing process of figuring out as you move forward. And often when we get to this place, our unconscious mind or subconscious mind has got us to where we are now, right? And we, based on the assumptions that we had about life, and those, when you start to question that and you start to see who you are now, then you can create something completely different. And maybe it doesn't fit into what you've been taught that you're supposed to do. Okay. And so, how do you access that? How do you move within that conditioning? And how does that impact your success? So, there's a couple things I want to add. So, first, if you're sensitive, empathic, like kind of a conscious person, spiritual person, then a lot of those conditioning and a lot of things you've taught may be related to you being not good enough because you don't fit into the greater society, and especially maybe whatever's valued in your culture. So that is in your conditioning of not being enough. And when you have that not being enough in your conditioning, that pushes you to continue to do more and more and more. But if you continue to do more and more and more and you don't believe you're enough, then often the results are not matching your actual action that you're taking, right? So, really looking at that subconscious. And that's how oftentimes um, a lot of conscious souls and leaders and spiritual people can get to this point of burnout because there's a sense of like this internal I'm not enough, even though they may not be fully conscious of it, and continuing to do more to prove themselves and receive that validation. And yet it's never enough because you don't feel like you're enough. Right. And the more you push that away of, I need to prove that I'm enough, the more that that's going to rise up. And so that's how it can impact um, a lot of sensitive, empathic people differently, although that can happen to not sensitive people too, right? So I'm not saying that that's just the case, but it's more likely in those situations. And so talking about how that impacts you as a sensitive person, but then also how does that impact your success, right? So, what do you believe is success? How do you define success? Is it based on income? Is it based on your position? Is it based on your education? Is it based on your house, where you live, your car? It's based on what you do. How do you define that? How do you define success? And that your definition of success can often be a subconscious or unconscious process because you have people around you kind of reinforcing what success is and what is a definition of someone that is a successful person and what's a definition of someone that's not a successful person, right? And so you can get to a point where you start to question that. What does that actually mean? What does success mean? What is success to me? How do I define success? And taking that separately from what society is telling you is success, and really being clear about what that is for you. Now you're going to be continue to receive messages from media, social media, from others, from your family, from your friends of maybe that would dispute that new belief of success that you have. Um, and staying with that as you're really getting more clear about what you want is going to be really important, right? And so and to access those thoughts, beliefs, and unconscious beliefs and conditioning, working with someone that works with that part of your mind is really important. And we can go through and see that through. We can look at your dreams. We can look at the triggers and things that are bothering you in society. We can look at just what you're seeing, the results you're seeing in your life, and your feelings about those things. And using different processes and visualizations and the right questioning. And so the changes that you can have and the aligned life that you can create and the purpose that you can create, that is the level of success. And that's how I define success. Success is being able to live a life full of alignment, purpose, and making the money that you want, making an income that feels good to you so you can do the things that you desire. That is success. To have great health, right? That's also part of success. So giving up your health for income, for money, um, to me, that's not success. That's not success. And giving up all your relationships, not spending time with family, friends because you need to produce the income or make the money or whatever that is, that's also not, to me, a definition of success. So, what is your definition? Do you know what that is? And if you define that, is it based on, which most likely is, based on what you've been taught is normal? And so I think of the fact that I've lived in different places. And when I've lived in all these places, it's so interesting. Yes, there are some common threads of what is considered, oh, that person's successful. And it can shift so much based on even just the geographical location that I'm in and what is defined that way. Right. And so if you keep yourself immersed in that and don't question and don't go beyond that, then you can often get lost in that, and especially if those things are not as valuable to you, right? And if you haven't thought about it, and if you haven't questioned, and if you haven't gone and worked on what is really key, I mean, the things that people usually regret at the end of life are usually the things they haven't done, right? Unless they've done something that's really hurtful to someone else, things like that. But usually it's the risks they haven't taken, the steps they haven't done. They felt an internal desire to do something, to create something that they didn't. Uh, so those are the things that people look back on. So what do you want your life to be? What do you want to know that you did? What do you want to know that you contributed to the world, to society, to people? And what is your definition of success? If it's based on your conditioning, then I'm going to encourage you to question that and look at what you would want it to be now. And working with someone that specializes in looking at that subconscious mind, looking at your conditioning and moving past that is going to help you reach your next level of success. So this is Kavita with Aligned and Soulful Success, and I look forward to hopefully sharing more and more about how you can achieve your levels of success. And if you have questions, please put some comments and or send me an email, and I'd love to answer them. In the meantime, take good care. Bye.